Not all of them are. Not all wars are satanic, because human nature is what it is, and we can cause our own problems. But let's look at America, currently no capital, small a America. The Civil War was to preserve the Union, split over the issue of slavery. I actually heard with my own ears a talking head, a black man, say that Lincoln was a Democrat. Wow. And Mohammed was a Jew. I like to be careful with the word slavery because it says something about the victims. They were slaves, but were they? Some, many, no doubt. But how about those who had freedom in their hearts? It is disrespectful to call them slaves. They were enslaved people, put in the position of a slave, but not. Some, many, embrace their station, and there's no surprise in this. Maturity accepts what is inevitable. Immaturity fights against the inevitable. But nobility of character continues to strive for liberty and to aspire to the best of human nature. Nobility questions and searches. And this is beautiful. So I don't like a careless use of the word slave. I use it here as a convenience. In the Constitution, enslaved people were counted, yet not counted, all for the benefit of the slaveocracy, the 3/5 compromise. I always had a problem with that. It was corrupt. This is why William Lloyd Garrison hated the Constitution. He called it a compact, a bargain with the devil. But without it, there would have been no Constitution, something else. And there would have been a Northern Union and a Southern Confederacy. Even with the Constitution, around the 1830s, a new spirit arose in the South, radical and anti-human. Not there only, but focused there. It's everywhere, because we find evil wherever we find people. Now we have the child-castrating wokists, but it's nothing new. Children have always been sacrificed. Blacks have nothing special to complain about. It's just that it's them this time. Long ago, it was Slavs, where we get the word slave. It was Jews, famous for the pogroms and the genocides, multiple. My people, tall, blue-eyed blondes, built the Roman Colosseum, enslaved the Saxons in Norman times, the Irish in British Empire times. Get over yourself. You suck because you're human. Any honest history should, but usually does not contain a catalogue of abominations that would bring crippling despair. Current American history books are full of how bad America was and is, but those are not history books. Fourth Maccabees, Fox's Book of Martyrs, Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago, these are just chapters in history's endless chronicle of atrocities. But an honest history also contains nobility and heroism and beauty, hopefully enough to obscure the pain. So the Civil War and righteousness won, but then the peace was ruined, and blacks were kept down. Futility. But the Union was preserved. But the Civil War was a satanic war. Skipping forward in history, World War II is self-evident. Satan came out from behind the curtain. Not just Hitler, but he was the face of it. Again, righteousness won. But Stalin controlled history from his tomb, with his Asian puppets and his Western tools. If Hitler had been Himmler, he would have been Stalin, just a machine. And then Vietnam, the Vietnam War. The satanic purpose of that war was the peace movement, and the outcome was the same castration for us that World War I did to Europe. Then, next, the stupid war on terror. They won. We were terrified. The denied fact that it was the most perfectly religious war imaginable, this only goes to show how they won, because we still lie about it. Some horror is happening to a child, and there are no words, just the idea. This is not really happening. That's where we are in history. We lost our way, the last societal grasp on public virtue. There used to be this thing called community standards. Dodo birds, stereopticons, public office as public trust. Quaint and comedic bric-a-brac for civilization's cabinet of oddities. America was a force for good. It saved the world. Now, it's just another country. Hegemonic, empire, vitiated, self-loathing. Boycotting a brand of beer is not a sufficient answer to the genital mutilation of children. Now, this understates the problem, an attack on the meaning of humanity. Who would have thought that social media would have so damaged these latest generations? It's just depravity, and the world actually has been more depraved than it is now, and becoming. But here it is, slouching toward us, self-mutilating, because everything has to be self-referential and ironic. It's just that we should see it coming. We should see that there has been purpose to it all, America and war and grand utopian social movements and the preservation of meaning. This idea, Satan's Wars, it should be a book or a docu-series or something. Satan is all over history, in Darwin and Marx, John Calhoun and George Fitzhugh, and Roger Taney and Robert E. Lee and Andrew Johnson, and I could go on and on. They did not know the cause for which they labored. That's why I'm so careful to be logical. I want to be right, but without rationality, we're just guessing. The problem with random is that not all outcomes are equal. Thus, good and evil. Having spoken of atrocities, now I'll read from chapter 27 of Frazer's Golden Bough. Ahem. Many races, like many individuals, have indulged in practices which must in the end destroy them. The Polynesians seem regularly to have killed 2/3 of their children. In some parts of East Africa, the proportion of infants massacred at birth is said to have been the same, 2/3. Only children born in certain presentations were allowed to live. The Jagas, a conquering tribe in Angola, are reported to have put to death all their children, without exception, in order that the women might not be cumbered with babies on the march. They recruited their numbers by adopting boys and girls of 13 or 14 years of age, whose parents they had killed and eaten. Among the Mbaya Indians in South America, the women used to murder all their children except the last, or the one they believed would be the last. If one of them had another child afterwards, she killed it. We need not wonder that this practice entirely destroyed a branch of the Mbaya nation, who had been for many years the most formidable enemies of the Spaniards. Among the Langawa Indians of the Gran Chaco, the missionaries discovered what they described as a carefully planned system of racial suicide by the practice of infanticide by abortion and other methods. Nor is infanticide the only mode in which a savage tribe commits suicide. A lavish use of the poison ordeal may be equally effective. Some time ago, a small tribe named Uet came down from the hill country and settled on the left branch of the Calabar River in West Africa. When the missionaries first visited the place, they found the population considerable, distributed into 3 villages. Since then, the constant use of the poison ordeal has almost extinguished the tribe. On one occasion, the whole population took poison to prove their innocence. About half perished on the spot, and the remnant, we are told, still continuing their superstitious practice, must soon become extinct. End quote. That's us, poisoning ourselves, sacrificing our children. I think it's in Hazor, the ancient Canaanite city. Archaeology has examined the site's sacred place and found the bones of an estimated 50,000 sacrificed infants and children to their god, Baal. Well, in the era of Roe v. Wade, there were over 63 million abortions in the United States. My instant math says that's 1,200 times more. Yeah. Is there a point? Well, yeah. Something about how Satan loves the death of the innocent.